I want to make a call, to I want to have a feeling, I need to make a call. There's a sense in which you almost need the validation and the support of the community to in fact feel the feeling in the first place. Bringing other people into the loop of feeling your feeling. This is very seductive.
So as a recipient of all of this information, how do you think this is affecting me?
You start to want to hide. I cannot live the BlackBerry version of my life. I cannot read, know all of the places and spaces and feelings and the Facebook and my life is more than I can live. We're no longer nourished but consumed in some way by what we've created.
I genuinely believe that we co-evolve with our tools, and most of our networked tools are, our smartphones where we can check emails, desktop computers, laptops. They encourage us, because it's so convenient, to consume lots of information in little snippets.
We recently crossed the 1 billion view mark per day that we're serving. And we're also receiving close to 24 hours of video every minute on the site, which is a phenomenal amount of data.
In my life, it's increasingly rare that I have time of my own, time to think. I have a Twitter account and several blogs to maintain, plus my Facebook status updates, my photo diary, my video blogs, and my podcast that I have to record. And that's the content that I create. There's also the content that I consume, not least of which are the emails that are at my inbox and all the messages on my answering machine. I was away for a week, and I had 283 emails that I had to go through. Living in the loop, Homointerneticus appears to be slowly drowning in a rising sea of information. But there's an even deeper change. The architecture of the web seems to encourage us to use our brains in a whole new way to digest the abundance of information. Here at MIT in Boston, 60 years ago, one scientist had an extraordinary vision of the future. How technology and the mind might work together. Vannevar Bush was involved in many of the great scientific advances of the 20th century. From designing some of the world's first computers to the development of the atom bomb. In 1945, he published an article that foretold our digital age. As we may think. This is Bush's original article, and with great insight, he described all of today's problems with information overload. At heart, he was focusing on the same problem that I'm grappling with in these archives. I'm searching through all these files associated with Bush. And they're labeled Vannevar Bush, A through B, C through D, photographs, correspondence, etc. But the irony is, this isn't how Bush thought our brains worked. For example, when he thought about his Aunt Susie, he didn't think about all of the people that he knew whose names began with S. He thought about where he was when he last saw her, how she did her hair, what she smelled like, how she held her fingers in front of her when she talked, that kind of thing, and so on until he built up a picture of her. In other words, he didn't think our minds were linear. He thought they worked through association.
Bush put on the table the problem. He said, here is the scientist. Imagine our scientist. He has before him the human record. In other words, all the things which science has decided in its collective wisdom are true. How is he going to manage to work effectively with the knowledge which includes all that stuff?
Bush believed working in this associative fashion would open up the library of human knowledge to us all. liberating our minds from the constraints of linear thinking. Almost half a century later, it was this concept of linking information that was at the heart of Tim Berners-Lee's data retrieval system he called the World Wide Web.
The brain's good at doing those things, first just finding those coincidences and then building on them to find the pattern.
Berners-Lee built into the design of the web what were called hyperlinks, the ability to leap from one piece of information to another. But the question is whether hyperlinked associative thinking is good for us. In mirroring the way the brain functions, darting from subject to subject in a click, does this make us lazy and easily distracted?
I think science shows us that our brain wants to be distracted. And what the web does, by bombarding us with stimuli and with information, it really plays to that aspect of our brain. It keeps our brain hopping and jumping and unable to concentrate.
The internet simply reflects who we are. So our inability to concentrate, our focus on real time, the fact that we're obsessed one week with Michael Jackson, the next week with Twitter, the week after with terrorism, simply reflects that inability to concentrate.
When you grow up expecting to be able to find information at a moment's notice, what does it do to your ability to internalize information?
We used to be trained in the discipline of reading and writing at length. Now the generation raised on the web's associative links seem unable to face the rigors of such linear thinking, even, it turns out, at our top universities.
What I notice about students from the first day I see them when they arrive at university is that they ask nervously, what do we have to read? And when they're told the first thing they have to read is a book, they all now groan, which they didn't used to do 5 or 10 years ago. And you say, why are you groaning? And they say, it's a book. How long is it?
Just take your own doctor. Would you be happy if your doctor simply skimmed the abstracts of Lancet and all the major databases and never read anything in detail? How happy would you be?
I still think that books are at the heart of what it means to be educated and to try and educate. And I think that the generation of students that I teach see books as peripheral.
I happen to think that long-form reading is very important because you can learn things from long-form that you could never learn from short-form. You can't read Remains of the Day and not come away with a better understanding of life regret. And those are things that you can only get in sort of book-length reading sessions.
But are these just the grumblings of an older generation? Beyond anecdotes, can we find any evidence that the web is really changing how we think? At University College London, Professor David Nicholas was the first academic to systematically study people's online behavior by analyzing millions of anonymous data records. In one survey, he found that 40% of people never revisit the same web page, that they only view up to 3 pages from the thousands that are available online.
And the really big surprise was that people seemed to be skipping over the virtual landscape. They were popping in from sites, looking at 1 or 2 pages, going to another site, looking at 1 or 2 pages, and then going on. Nobody seemed to be staying anywhere for very long.
Professor David Nicholas's study suggests that the web's hyperlinked network of information is converting us from thinking linearly into thinking associatively. These 2 types of thinking can be termed fox and hedgehog.
Foxes are people that embrace all kinds of ideas, like the wisdom of the crowd, bounce from here and there and pick things up, and that's how they acquire their knowledge. And then there are hedgehogs. Hedgehogs like one big idea. They repeat, they go back to the same source. These people like the peer-evaluated environment because they're certain of that. And these people represent quite a different group of people.
Now we want to find out whether the younger generations are becoming more fox-like than hedgehog. So we've joined forces with UCL in a unique experiment